Commander Alex Warren sat at his desk in the Earth Defense Force headquarters. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of computers. Outside his window, the lights of New Washington shone against the night sky. The screen on his wall suddenly lit up with a strange pattern. At first he thought it was a malfunction. Then the pattern shifted and formed into a face. At least, he thought it was a face. It had 6 eyes arranged in a circle and skin that looked like blue metal. "Greetings, human representative," the creature said in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Zixilon of the Galactic Council. We have been watching your species for some time." Alex reached slowly for the alarm button under his desk. "That won't be necessary, Commander Warren," said the alien. "This is a peaceful contact. We invite humanity to join the Galactic Council as a probationary species." Alex's hand froze. "How do you know my name?" he asked. "We have studied your communication networks. Your internet is primitive but accessible." 3 hours later, Alex sat in a meeting room with the highest-ranking officials on Earth. The president looked pale as Alex explained the situation. "They want 3 representatives to visit their council station," Alex said. "As a show of good faith," General Patel nodded. "And you believe this is genuine? The technology they demonstrated is beyond anything we have. If they wanted to harm us, they could have done it already." The president stood up. "Commander Warren, you will lead this mission. Choose your team carefully." 2 days later, Alex stood in the launch bay with his chosen teammates, Dr. Lisa Martinez, a brilliant scientist with 3 PhDs, and Major Frank Collins, the best tactical expert in the EDF. Lisa adjusted her uniform nervously. "I still can't believe we're about to meet actual aliens." Frank checked his sidearm. "I still can't believe they're letting us bring weapons." "Ambassador Zixilon said it was a sign of respect," Alex reminded him. "They understand our caution." Light appeared in the center of the room, expanding into a swirling blue portal. "That's our ride," Alex said, taking a deep breath. "Let's make history." They stepped through together and felt a brief sensation of falling. Then they were standing in a massive circular room with a ceiling that seemed to show actual stars. Ambassador Zixilon approached. In person, he was taller than Alex expected, nearly 7 feet high with a slender body covered in blue scales. "Welcome to Harmony Station, humans," he said, gesturing with long fingers. "The council awaits." They followed him down a corridor where other aliens moved aside, staring at the humans with what seemed like curiosity or disgust. The council chamber was enormous. Seats rose in tiers around a central platform, filled with creatures of every imaginable shape. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange Alex couldn't tell which parts were heads and which were limbs. "The human delegation from Earth," announced Zixilon. A large alien with red armor and tusks protruding from its jaw stood up. "These are the new species?" it growled. "They look fragile." "General Krovak," Zixilon said with a slight bow. "May I present Commander Alex Warren, Dr. Lisa Martinez, and Major Frank Collins." Krovak made a sound like rocks grinding together. "I've reviewed the reports. Humans are a Category 3 vulnerable species. Low physical strength, no natural armor, no biological weapons, limited sensory range." Lisa stepped forward. "We compensate in other ways." "Yes," Krovak said. "Your intelligence. Many species claim that as their strength when they lack real power." A floating jellyfish-like creature drifted down. "We were all new to the council once, General. Let us show our guests the station before we judge them." As they toured the station, Alex noticed how the other aliens towered over them or moved with incredible speed. In one area, creatures lifted objects that would crush a human. In another, aliens breathed toxic gases without protection. "Don't mind the stairs," Zixilon said. "Many here have never seen humans before," Lisa whispered to Alex. "We're physically weaker than most of them. Then we'd better make sure they respect us for our minds," Alex replied. None of them noticed General Krovak watching from a distance, his tusked mouth curved in what might have been a smile. The research wing of Harmony Station hummed with activity. Lisa followed Zixilon down a long corridor, while Alex and Frank toured the military section. Scientists of different species worked at stations filled with equipment she had never seen before. "This is our materials laboratory," Zixilon said, waving his long blue arm. "We study elements from across the galaxy here." A small green alien, with 4 arms, looked up from a workstation. "Ambassador, is it wise to bring a primitive species into this area?" Dr. Calreen, "Humans have their own science. Dr. Martinez has 3 degrees in what they call physics and chemistry." The green alien made a bubbling sound that might have been laughter. "How quaint." Lisa kept her face calm, but her hands tightened into fists. She walked to a nearby table where a strange gray substance floated in a clear container. It seemed to shift and ripple like liquid, yet hold form like solid. "What is this material?" she asked. Dr. Calreen waved dismissively. "That? Just null matter. A cosmic joke with no use. Null matter." Lisa moved closer. The substance seemed to pulse slightly as she approached. Zixilon explained, "It exists throughout the universe in small amounts, completely worthless. We've tried for centuries to form it into anything useful, but it's impossible to manipulate." "Why keep it then?" Lisa asked. "Some scientists still study it out of curiosity," Zixilon said, "but most agree it's as useful as cosmic dust." Lisa noticed something strange. When she leaned very close to the container, the gray material moved slightly toward her hand. The green scientist didn't seem to notice. "May I?" she asked, pointing to a scanner on the table. "Doctor," Calreen shrugged, "if you can operate it." The device was complex, but Lisa figured out the basic functions quickly. She scanned the null matter, then her own hand, comparing the readings. "Interesting," she murmured. "What could possibly interest you about null matter?" Dr. Calreen asked. Lisa smiled. "Just curious about everything." Later, in their private quarters, Lisa found a small empty container in their supply kit. She glanced at the door, then quickly made her decision. She would visit the lab again when everyone was sleeping. That night, Lisa slipped through the quiet corridors. The lab was dark except for a few blinking lights. She made her way to the null matter container and carefully took a small sample, placing it in her container. As she did, the substance seemed to reach for her fingers. Back in her room, Lisa placed the sample on the table and passed her hand over it. The gray material moved, following her hand like it was magnetized. She checked the scanner readings again. There was something in human bioelectrical fields that resonated with null matter. A message alert chimed on her communication device. It was from Alex. "Emergency meeting, now." In Alex's room, Frank was already pacing. "What's happening?" Lisa asked. Alex looked grim. "I just learned from a friendly council member that Earth's sector is under threat. A species called the Vexar has been destroying developing civilizations." "And the council isn't doing anything?" Frank asked. "General Krovak claims they have limited resources. They're prioritizing valuable member species." Alex's voice was bitter. "We need to warn Earth," Frank said. "Already did," Alex replied, "but the Council's technology is far beyond ours. If they won't help us fight, we need an advantage." Lisa thought about the strange material in her container. "I might have found something," she said quietly. Both men looked at her. "There's a material here they call null matter. The Council thinks it's useless, but it reacts to humans differently." She pulled out her container and demonstrated how the gray substance moved toward her hand. "What can it do?" Frank asked. "I don't know yet," Lisa admitted. "But the Council scientists have been trying to work with it for centuries with no success. If we can manipulate it and they can't," Alex's eyes widened. "That could be our advantage." "I need to get more samples," Lisa said, "and we need to get them back to Earth for proper study." "Do it," Alex said. "But be careful. If null matter is as useless as they claim, they won't miss. But if they discover we can use it..." Frank finished his thought. "They might never let us leave with it." Lisa nodded, glancing at the small container where the gray material pulsed gently, almost like it was alive. 3 months after returning to Earth, Lisa stood in a secret underground facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. The sign on the heavy metal door read, "Project Impossible." Guards with special clearance checked her ID before letting her enter. Inside, scientists and military personnel moved between workstations filled with equipment. In the center of the main lab, a large container held significantly more null matter than the small sample she had smuggled from Harmony Station. "Dr. Martinez," a voice called. She turned to see Steve Harris, the lead engineer assigned to the project. He was tall with broad shoulders and clever eyes. "We've made a breakthrough." He led her to his workstation where complex diagrams filled multiple screens. "We analyzed the null matter at the quantum level. It's not just responding to our bioelectrical fields, it's responding to our DNA. "Our DNA?" Lisa asked, leaning closer to the screen. "Yes. Humans have a unique genetic sequence that creates a quantum resonance with null matter. None of the alien DNA samples we've studied show this feature." Lisa's mind raced with possibilities. "So only humans can control this material?" "Exactly," Steve said with excitement. "And I've designed something that uses this property." He moved to another screen showing a sleek suit of armor. "I call it the null suit." Lisa studied the design. "It looks like a second skin." "That's the beauty of it. The null matter forms a symbiotic relationship with the wearer. It's not just armor, it becomes part of you." Across the room, General Williams listened to their conversation. He had been skeptical of Project Impossible from the beginning. Now he stepped forward. "Dr. Harris, you claim this armor will work. When can we test it?" Steve looked up confidently. "We can test a prototype today." 1 hour later, they gathered in the testing chamber. Steve emerged wearing what looked like a skin-tight gray bodysuit. The null matter had been formed into a perfectly fitted armor that covered him from neck to feet. "The armor responds to my thoughts," Steve explained. "It's lightweight but incredibly strong." General Williams nodded to a soldier who aimed a standard-issue pistol at a target beside Steve. "May I?" Steve asked, stepping in front of the target. The general hesitated, then nodded. The soldier fired. The bullet hit Steve directly in the chest and stopped, hovering for a moment before dropping harmlessly to the floor. The room went silent. "How is that possible?" General Williams finally asked. "The null matter absorbed the kinetic energy," Steve explained. "It can do the same with energy weapons based on our simulations." Lisa stepped forward. "How strong is it?" Steve smiled. "Let me show you." He walked to a weight station and lifted a bar loaded with over 1,000 pounds. The armor seemed to flow with his movements, enhancing his natural strength. "This is just the beginning," Steve said. "The armor learns and adapts. The longer someone wears it, the stronger the bond becomes." Later that day, in the briefing room, Lisa and Steve presented their findings to military leaders. Major Frank Collins, who had returned with them from Harmony Station, was among them. "The applications go beyond armor," Lisa explained. "We've begun testing null matter for ship hulls, weapon systems, even medical applications." "How much null matter do we have?" General Williams asked. "We've developed a method to detect and collect it from our solar system," Steve answered. "There's more than we initially thought. Small amounts, but enough for several hundred suits." Frank leaned forward. "The Council report said the Vexar use energy weapons and have destroyed several planets. Would these suits protect against that level of attack?" "Based on our tests, yes," Lisa said. "But we need real combat data." General Williams stood up. "Then we'll form a special unit. Major Collins, you'll lead it. We're calling it the Impossible Squadron." As the meeting ended, Lisa pulled Steve aside. "There's something I haven't told everyone yet," she whispered. "I've been running additional tests. The null matter doesn't just protect the wearer, it heals them." Steve's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" Lisa nodded. "I've documented regeneration of damaged tissue when in contact with null matter. Nothing major yet, but with further development, this could change everything," Steve said quietly. Outside the facility, unknown to them, a small probe with alien markings silently recorded data before disappearing into the night sky back on Harmony Station. Alex sat in a small meeting room with Ambassador Zix Elon. 6 months had passed since his first visit, and he now served as Earth's permanent representative to the Council. I bring troubling news, Commander Warren, Zixilon said, his 6 eyes blinking in sequence. General Krovak has proposed that Earth be placed under protective custody. What does that mean exactly? Alex asked, though he suspected the answer. Your planet would surrender defense responsibilities to the Council. Zixilon's voice lowered. Essentially, you would become a client species. You would lose voting rights and resource allocation privileges. Alex kept his face neutral despite his anger. What reason does he give for this proposal? The Vexar. Threat. 3 more developing worlds have been destroyed in the past month. Krovak claims Earth cannot possibly defend itself against such advanced attackers. And the real reason? Zixilon's scales shifted color slightly. What Alex had learned was a sign of discomfort. Council intelligence has detected unusual material. Shipments to Earth. They cannot identify the cargo. Alex knew immediately they had discovered the null matter transports. He needed to stall for time while Project Impossible completed more armors. Who supports this proposal? He asked. Krovak has significant influence. However, you have allies too. Zixilon gestured to the door as 2 figures entered. The first was Trisk, an insectoid diplomat whose species valued logical debate above all else. The second was Morlana, an aquatic scientist who floated in a water-filled suit. These council members have questioned Krovak's motives, Zixilon explained. Trisk's mandibles clicked rapidly. The General's proposal violates Council Charter Section 12.3, non-interference with sovereign species development. Morlana's voice bubbled through her translator. And scientifically, his assessment of human capabilities is incomplete. I've studied your history. Humans are remarkably adaptable. Alex nodded gratefully. How can we stop this protective custody proposal? Delay tactics, Trisk suggested. Request research periods, demand evidence reviews. I can help with procedural challenges, Morlana added. The Science Committee must assess threat levels before military action is approved. Later that day, Dr. Olivia Bennett arrived at the station. As Earth's diplomatic liaison, she navigated council bureaucracy with impressive skill. Alex briefed her on the situation. We need 2 more months, he told her. That's how long until Project Impossible can deploy a defensive force. Olivia nodded, reviewing documents on her tablet. I'll file 17 separate procedure challenges. Each requires a minimum review period of 3 days. Will that be enough? Alex asked. Combined with Ambassador Zixilon's allies, yes. She looked up with determination. I didn't spend 15 years in international diplomacy to let some tusked general turn Earth into a puppet state. In the council chambers the next day, General Krovak presented his case. His massive form dominated the speaking platform. Humans lack the technology to defend against Vexar weapons, he stated. Their military capabilities are primitive. For their own safety, council protection is necessary. Olivia stood to respond. Earth appreciates the council's concern. However, we request a full threat assessment by the Independent Science Committee before considering any change to our sovereign status. Krovak's tusks clicked in irritation. The Vexar destroyed Proxima Colony last week. There is no time for bureaucratic delays. Council charter requires proper procedure. Trisk interjected from his seat. All 17 challenges filed by Earth must be addressed. The debate continued for hours. More council members joined both sides. When the session ended, the vote was delayed for further review. As Alex and Olivia left the chamber, a council messenger approached them. Urgent communication from Earth, he said, handing Alex a data tablet. The message was brief. Vexar scout ships detected at the edge of our solar system. Project Impossible at 73% completion. Need more time. That night, Alex paced in his quarters. We're running out of time, he told Olivia. If the Vexar attack before our defenses are ready. Olivia's reply was interrupted by an alarm blaring through the station. The emergency system activated. All council representatives to safe locations. An automated voice announced. Vexar vessels have bypassed defense grid. Boarding parties detected. Alex and Olivia exchanged shocked looks. They're here, Alex whispered, attacking the council directly. Outside their window, dark ships with red energy weapons appeared, firing on the station. The battle for survival had begun. Chaos erupted throughout Harmony Station. Alarms blared as Council security forces rushed to defensive positions. Alex and Olivia hurried toward the emergency communication center. "We need to contact Earth," Alex said as they ran through crowded corridors. Aliens of all species pushed past them, some panicking, others moving with military precision. They reached the communication hub to find General Krovac already there, barking orders to his officers. "Commander Warren," he growled upon seeing Alex. "Your presence is not required. Return to your quarters." "With respect, General, this attack concerns Earth as well," Alex replied firmly. Krovac's tusked face twisted into what might have been a smile. "Does it? The Vexar have never attacked the Council directly before. Perhaps they learned humans are here." A massive explosion rocked the station before Alex could respond. The lights flickered. "Vexar boarding parties have breached. Level 4, a Council officer reported. Security forces are engaging but suffering heavy casualties." Krovac turned to the station's commander. "Deploy all combat units. I will lead the defense personally." As the general strode toward the door, another explosion hit, closer this time. The door to the communication hub blew inward. 3 Vexar warriors stepped through the smoke. They were tall, skeletal beings with bone-white armor and glowing red eyes. Each carried an energy weapon that hummed with deadly power. Council security. Officers fired their weapons. The Vexar responded with devastating energy blasts that cut through the officers like paper. General Krovac roared and charged, his massive form barreling toward the intruders. One Vexar fired, hitting him squarely in the chest. The general staggered but continued forward, drawing a ceremonial blade. Before he could reach them, a second blast knocked him to the floor. His red armor smoked from the impact. "Primitive weapons," one of the Vexar spoke, its voice a metallic hiss. "The Council's strength is a myth." As the Vexar advanced into the room, Alex pushed Olivia behind him. They were cornered with nowhere to run. Suddenly, Alex's communication device buzzed. He glanced down at the message. "Package delivered. 5 units. Docking Bay 7. Alex's heart leaped. He looked at Olivia. "Follow my lead," he whispered. The Vexar approached, weapons raised. "Humans," the lead warrior said. "Your species is next to be cleansed." Alex stepped forward. "Before you kill us, I want to introduce you to Earth's defenders." The Vexar paused, seemingly confused by his calm demeanor. Alex tapped his comm device. "Major Collins, now would be good." For 3 seconds, nothing happened. The Vexar raised their weapons. Then the wall to their right exploded inward. Through the debris stepped 5 figures in sleek gray armor that moved like liquid metal around their bodies. Major Frank Collins led the squad, his null matter armor gleaming under the emergency lights. "Sorry we're late," Frank said. "Traffic was terrible." The Vexar fired their energy weapons. The blasts hit the human soldiers directly and were absorbed into their armor, causing it to glow briefly before returning to its normal state. The council members present watched in shock. Frank nodded to his squad. "Take them." The human soldiers moved with incredible speed, their armor enhancing their natural abilities. One grabbed a Vexar weapon and crushed it with his bare hand. Another leaped 20 feet across the room to tackle a warrior. In less than 30 seconds, all 3 Vexar lay unconscious or dead on the floor. General Krovac pushed himself up, staring at the humans in disbelief. What is that armor? How is this possible?" Alex walked over to help the general to his feet. "You called null matter impossible to manipulate," he said. "It turns out humans can do the impossible." The general's 6-fingered hand reached out to touch the armor. The material shifted away from his touch. "It responds to you," he whispered. "Only to humans," Frank confirmed. "Something in our DNA?" Olivia stepped forward. "Now, General, about that protective custody proposal." Krovac's eyes remained fixed on the null matter armor. "There are more Vexar boarding throughout the station," he said finally. "Hundreds." Frank's helmet retracted. flowing back into the armor to reveal his determined face. Then we'd better get to work. Consider this a demonstration of Earth's defensive capabilities. The human squad moved toward the door, ready to engage more Vexar. Impossible, one of the council scientists whispered, watching the null matter armor ripple and flow with each movement. No, Alex replied with a smile. Just human. 1 week after the attack on Harmony Station, Earth faced its own crisis. Hundreds of Vexar ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. A massive invasion force larger than anything the Council had ever recorded. In the White House Situation Room, the president stared at the holographic display showing the approaching fleet. Military leaders, scientists, and government officials filled the room. "How long do we have?" the president asked. General Williams pointed to the display. "At their current speed, 3 days until they reach Earth orbit." "What about Council assistance?" Alex Warren, who had returned to Earth to coordinate defenses, shook his head. "They're still repairing Harmony Station. The few ships they could send wouldn't arrive in time." "Then we stand alone," the president said, straightening his shoulders. "What are our options?" Lisa Martinez stepped forward. "Project Impossible has produced 100 complete null matter suits. Major Collins has trained his soldiers extensively." 100 soldiers against a fleet that size? Someone asked. "Steve," Harris spoke up, "we've also developed something else." He adjusted the holographic display to show a small ship with sleek lines. "We call it the Nullcraft. It's built with the same null matter technology as the armor." "What can it do?" the president asked. "It can phase through Vexar shields," Steve explained. "Their ships are protected by energy barriers that have always been impenetrable. But null matter can pass right through them." "A direct assault?" "General," Williams asked. Steve nodded. "We load a small team into the Nullcraft, penetrate their command ship, and plant explosives at their central power core." "A suicide mission," the president said grimly. "Not necessarily," Steve replied. "The null matter responds to the pilot's thoughts. With the right person flying, we believe it can get in and out before they know what hit them." All eyes turned to Steve. He straightened. "I designed it. I'll fly it." 3 days later, the Vexar fleet entered Earth orbit. Their ships were massive skeletal structures glowing with red energy. The largest, the command ship, positioned itself directly over North America. "They're launching attack vessels," reported a technician at Space Command. On screens around the world, people watched as thousands of smaller ships descended toward major cities. Then something unexpected happened. The Vexar vessels suddenly halted their approach. A transmission came through on all frequencies. A skeletal Vexar face appeared on screens globally. "Humans," the alien commander said in a harsh, metallic voice. "Your planet harbors technology that threatens the natural order. Surrender the null matter manipulation process, and we will spare your species." In orbit above Earth, hidden by stealth technology, the Nullcraft floated silently. Inside, Steve piloted the small vessel while Frank and 2 other soldiers in full null matter armor prepared their weapons. "That's our cue," Steve said. "They know about the null matter." "Good," Frank replied. "That means they're scared." The Nullcraft accelerated toward the massive Vexar command ship. As they approached its energy shields, Steve concentrated. The null matter hull of their ship shimmered and seemed to become partially transparent. "Here we go," Steve whispered. They passed through the Vexar shields as if they weren't there. No alarms sounded. No weapons fired at them. "It worked," one of the soldiers exclaimed. Steve guided the ship to a maintenance dock and landed silently. "Remember, we need to reach the central power core. Plant the charges, then get out." Frank checked his weapons. "What about their energy weapons?" "Your armor should absorb most of it," Steve said, "but don't get overconfident. We've never tested against their heavy cannons." The team exited the Nullcraft, moving quietly through the Vexar ship. They encountered their first guards at a junction. "Let me test something," Frank whispered. He stepped into the open. The Vexar fired immediately. The energy blast hit Frank's armor and was absorbed completely. The null matter glowed briefly, then settled. "Just like we thought," Frank said. "Their weapons make us stronger." What the humans didn't realize was that each time the null matter absorbed energy, it converted and stored it. Frank's armor was now charged with tremendous power. As they fought their way deeper into the ship, Frank felt the null matter responding more quickly to his thoughts, almost anticipating his moves. When they finally reached the central core chamber, dozens of Vexar warriors waited for them. The ensuing battle would determine the fate of Earth. Footage of humans using null matter technology spread quickly throughout Council space. In a Council emergency session, representatives from over 200 species gathered to watch recordings of Major Frank Collins and his impossible squadron, repelling Vexar forces on Harmony Station. "This cannot be real," said a Serpentine Council elder, her forked tongue flicking in agitation. "Null matter is impossible to manipulate." Ambassador Zixilon stood at the central platform. "And yet, we all saw it with our own eyes. Humans have achieved what we thought impossible." On the main screen, they watched as Frank's null matter armor absorbed a direct hit from a Vexar cannon, glowed briefly, and then redirected the energy back at the attacker. "The scientific implications are enormous," said Dr. Calreen, the green, four-armed scientist who had once dismissed Lisa's interest in null matter. "We must study this technology immediately." General Krovak, his red armor now repaired, pushed his way to the speaking platform. "Study? No. We must secure this technology. For the Council. Earth must surrender null matter manipulation to our control. Earth is fighting for survival at this moment," Zixilon countered. "The Vexar fleet is exactly why Earth cannot be trusted with such power," Krovak interrupted. "A primitive species with advanced technology is a universal danger." Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. "I propose immediate Council intervention," Krovak continued. "I will personally lead our fleet to Earth, secure the null matter technology, and neutralize the Vexar threat." "You mean place Earth under protective custody," Zixilon said. "As you've wanted all along." Krovak's tusks clicked in irritation. "I mean save a primitive species from extinction while protecting the galactic order." The Council erupted in debate. Meanwhile, on a smaller screen at the side of the chamber, real-time footage showed the battle unfolding at Earth. The Vexar command ship glowed with strange energy fluctuations. Inside that ship, Frank and his team fought desperately to reach the core. Dozens of Vexar warriors fired energy weapons at them. With each hit, the null matter armor absorbed more power. Frank felt strange. His armor now glowed constantly, pulsing with stored energy. When he punched a Vexar warrior, the impact sent the alien flying across the chamber. The null matter was enhancing his strength far beyond normal levels. "We're almost at the core," Steve called out, checking a handheld scanner. "Through that door." Frank placed his hand on the massive door. His armor rippled, and suddenly his hand passed through the solid metal as if it were mist. He looked back at his team in surprise. "The energy absorption," Steve said in awe. "It's changing the properties of the null matter." Frank nodded and stepped completely through the door. The others followed, their armor allowing them to phase through solid matter just as their ship had phased through Vexar shields. Inside was the central power core, a massive red crystal pulsing with energy. "Set the charges," Frank ordered. As his team placed explosives around the core, a deep voice spoke from behind them. "Humans, at last we meet." They turned to see a tall Vexar, different from the others. This one wore ornate bone-white armor with red symbols. The Supreme Commander. "Your manipulation of null matter violates the natural order," the commander said. "Only the Vexar are permitted to harness such power." Frank stepped forward. "You know about null matter. We have hunted it across the galaxy for millennia. We destroy any species that shows sensitivity to it." The commander raised a weapon larger than any they had seen before. "As we will destroy you." The weapon fired a beam of pure red energy directly at Frank. The impact was tremendous, knocking him backward against the core. His armor absorbed the blast but glowed white-hot from the strain. Back at the council chamber, Zixilon was losing the debate. More representatives sided with Krovak's intervention plan. Suddenly, Trusk the insectoid diplomat rushed into the chamber. Breaking news from my intelligence sources, he clicked urgently. General Krovak has been secretly communicating with Vexar factions. The chamber went silent. He has been trading information about null matter research for personal gain. Trusk continued, projecting evidence onto the main screen, including alerting them to human compatibility. All eyes turned to Krovak, whose tusked face showed no remorse. Primitives should not possess such power, he growled. Before anyone could respond, the side screen showing Earth's battle suddenly flashed blindingly bright. The Vexar command ship was exploding from within. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, Commander Alex Warren stood on the balcony of the newly constructed human embassy on the Council homeworld. The gleaming building of glass and steel stood as tall as any alien structure around it, a symbol of Earth's new status in galactic society. Inside, diplomats and officials from across the galaxy gathered for the opening ceremony. The Earth delegation included all those who had made the impossible possible: Dr. Lisa Martinez, Steve Harris, Dr. Olivia Bennett, and newly promoted General Frank Collins. "Still hard to believe," said a voice beside Alex. He turned to find Ambassador Zixilon admiring the view. "Which part?" Alex asked with a smile. "All of it. Humans manipulating null matter, the Vexar defeat, Earth becoming a full council member in record time." The ambassador's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. The universe is full of surprises. The defeat of the Vexar had been spectacular. When Frank's null matter armor absorbed the Supreme Commander's weapon blast, it had reached a critical energy threshold. The armor had not just phased through solid matter. It had allowed Frank to control the very structure of the Vexar ship. With a thought, he had destabilized the command ship's power core from within, giving his team just enough time to escape in their null craft before the massive vessel exploded. The destruction of their command ship had thrown the Vexar fleet into chaos. Earth's impossible squadron, now 100 strong in their null matter armor, had easily repelled the remaining forces. "The science teams are making progress," Lisa said, joining them on the balcony. "Council researchers are finally beginning to understand the quantum properties of null matter, though none can manipulate it like we can." "Some species show limited compatibility," Steve added as he approached. "The more jockey can produce minor effects after months of training." Inside the embassy, Dr. Calreen was examining a sample of processed null matter under strict human supervision. The green scientist had become one of the biggest advocates for human-alien scientific cooperation. "The Council's scientific classification system is being completely restructured," Lisa noted. "They're acknowledging the flaw in dismissing species based solely on physical attributes." "And what about General Krovak?" Alex asked, turning to Zixilon. The ambassador's scales darkened slightly. "Imprisoned for his dealings with the Vexar. His trial revealed decades of corruption." Frank joined them, his dress uniform adorned with new medals. Though he no longer wore his null matter armor, Alex noticed the faint blue glow beneath his skin, a side effect of prolonged symbiosis with the material. "The new recruits are progressing well," Frank reported. 30 more null matter compatible soldiers identified this month. Earth now controlled all null matter research and application. Though many council species had initially demanded access to the technology, the simple biological reality prevailed. Only humans could fully manipulate it. "President Gardner is ready to address the gathering," Olivia announced, stepping onto the balcony. "Everyone's waiting." They moved inside to the grand hall where representatives from hundreds of alien species had assembled. As Earth's president spoke about cooperation and new beginnings, Alex watched the faces of the gathered aliens. Where once he had seen dismissal or pity for primitive humans, he now saw respect, and from some, a touch of fear. Later that evening, as the celebration continued, Alex found a quiet moment with Frank. "Did you ever imagine this?" Alex asked, gesturing to the diverse gathering. "When we first stepped onto Harmony Station?" Frank shook his head. "Never. I was just a soldier following orders, and now I'm training the first class of Council Defense Force recruits, most of them non-human." Frank smiled. Turns out many species are eager to learn from the humans who did the impossible. On a training field outside the city, new recruits from a dozen alien species practiced combat techniques under human instructors. None wore null matter armor that remained uniquely human, but all studied how Earth had defeated the supposedly invincible Vexar. In research labs across human space, scientists continued to discover new properties of null matter. Medical applications showed particular promise, with early tests suggesting null matter could repair damaged tissues or even regrow lost limbs. As the sun set on the council homeworld, casting golden light across the embassy balcony, Alex Warren looked to the stars. Somewhere out there, remnants of the Vexar fleet retreated to the edges of known space. Other threats would emerge in time. But for now, humanity had earned its place among the stars, not as a primitive species needing protection, but as innovators who had turned the impossible into reality. "Ready to head back to Earth tomorrow?" Olivia asked, joining him at the railing. Alex nodded. With a new title, Earth's first permanent ambassador to the Council. Not bad for someone the Council initially classified as a Category 3 vulnerable species, she said with a smile. Alex laughed. "I suppose we should thank General Krovak and the Council.